Guess you don't count. Those 4 words changed everything. My sister said them with a smile while I sat by the trash cans at her wedding. They'd seated me in the hallway outside the ballroom like I was less than a guest. My mother looked away. My father said nothing. I could hear the music, see the chandeliers through the glass, but I wasn't allowed inside. That's when I decided to leave. 5 minutes later, a scream cut through the celebration, and their perfect day shattered forever. The Vermont morning air was sharp, smelling like pine and old money. My sister Leah had chosen the lakeside resort for its European elegance, the kind of venue where people took photos just to prove they'd been invited. Glass walls overlooked the water, orchids hung from every arch, and crystal bowls floated with candles under glittering chandeliers. Every table inside shimmered with perfection. Mine was outside by the service entrance next to the trash cans. I'd driven 3 hours from Boston alone, replaying my mother's last text over and over. Please Amber, no drama today. It's Leah's day. That's all I'd ever been to them, a warning label. Don't make noise. Don't take space. Don't remind anyone there's another daughter in this family. Growing up, we were the classic portrait. The golden child and the forgotten one. Leah collected ribbons and trophies. I collected report cards nobody looked at. She cried and got rescued. I fixed things and got ignored. Mom called me the easy one. Dad said I was independent. Both meant the same thing. Invisible was convenient for everyone but me. When I walked toward the ballroom that morning, my heels clicked against marble floors. Through the glass doors I could see them posing for photos. Mom in champagne silk, Dad straightening his tie, and Leah glowing in white. She looked back once, saw me, and smiled the way people smile at store clerks they won't remember. The coordinator intercepted me with her clipboard. "You're Miss Hayes?" she asked. When she found my name, her polite smile faltered. "You're listed for hallway seating." I laughed, waiting for the joke. She didn't laugh back. Hallway seating. Next to the trash cans. I could see everything from there, every sparkle and every laugh. But there was a wall between us, literal and otherwise. I tried to disappear like always, but the hallway wasn't quiet. Staff pushed through the service doors, wheeling bins of melting ice, laughing under their breath. Every time those doors swung open, I caught flashes of the ballroom. Chandeliers glittering. Dresses swaying. My mother's hand on Leah's shoulder like a crown of approval. I set my gift on the folding table, a small silver box I'd spent hours choosing, and stared through the glass at the life I was never allowed to be part of. The last time I'd seen them together was Thanksgiving 3 years ago. The house smelled like burnt pie crust and lemon cleaner. Leah was in Portugal with her new boyfriend, and for once the air felt light without her. Mom asked me to grab a photo album from her vanity drawer. Instead, I found her little brown journal, edges soft from years of use. Curious, I flipped through it. Every single page began the same way. Leah's first day of kindergarten. Leah's favorite meal. Leah's college acceptance. Not a single line about me. Not my birthdays. Not my name. When I asked why, Mom smiled like it was a silly question. "You never needed the attention, honey. You were always fine." That night, I learned there are 2 kinds of forgotten. Being lost and being erased. I was erased. Sitting in that cold hallway, staring at the celebration I wasn't invited to join, I remembered that journal. Every blank page where my name should have been. My throat went dry, the kind of dryness that comes from swallowing too much pride for too many years. Behind the glass, Leah raised her champagne glass for a photo. She was laughing, radiant, perfect. And I was outside where I'd always been. Watching from the edges while everyone pretended I didn't exist. Then the laughter shifted. I looked up and saw Leah walking toward me, bouquet in one hand, veil trailing behind her like smoke. She stopped just short of the doorway, her reflection doubled in the glass. 2 versions of her. One adored inside, one cruel outside. "Well," she said, tilting her head with that familiar smirk. "Looks like they finally figured out where you belong." I blinked, my heart starting to race. What's that supposed to mean? She smiled, that half-smile I'd seen since childhood, the one she used before stealing the spotlight. "Guess you don't count." The words landed so softly I almost missed how sharp they were. Guess you don't count. Like it was simple math. Like I was a miscalculation that could be rounded down to nothing. For a second I said nothing. Behind her, the photographer was calling out, "Bride, we need you back in the shot." She didn't move. She wanted me to react, to cry, to beg, to prove her point. I didn't. I just looked at her long enough for her smile to twitch. You know, I said quietly, there's always been space for both of us. You're the one who keeps shrinking it. Her eyes narrowed. Oh please, Amber. Not everything's about you. This is my day. You could at least pretend to be happy for once. I let out a small laugh, the kind that sounds like air escaping from a crack. You made sure I couldn't even sit in the same room. What exactly am I celebrating? For a moment the mask slipped. I saw a flicker of something behind her eyes. Fear maybe. Then she straightened, lifting her chin. You always twist things. Maybe Mom was right. You make everything difficult. The name hit harder than I wanted it to. I pictured that brown notebook again, every page filled with Leia's life and none of mine. I'm not difficult, I said. You just never like that I see things the way they are. She rolled her eyes. You sound just like Dad. Pathetic and bitter. Face it, Amber. Nobody needs your approval. Not here, not ever. She turned on her heel, leaving a trail of perfume and disdain. I watched her go, her white gown brushing the floor, and felt the familiar burn behind my eyes. But this time it didn't hurt the same way. It burned cleaner. When the door closed behind her, I picked up the small silver box from the table. The gift I'd chosen the night before, wrapped in quiet patience. I traced the ribbon once, then slipped it into my bag. They didn't want me inside, fine. But I wasn't leaving empty-handed. Not this time. 3 weeks earlier, I'd run into one of Leia's old co-workers in Boston. A harmless lunch turned into a confession. Leia had been bragging for months about marrying Rich, about how easy it was to make Noah trust her. He's sweet, she'd said, but naive. A few fake tears and I get the house, the money, the last name. She'd laughed. My coffee went cold. I hadn't planned to use that information until today. Before leaving the hallway, I walked back to the reception table near the ballroom entrance. The wedding planner was distracted, fussing over centerpieces. I slid the small silver box among the other gifts, right on top of the pile labeled, "To Leia and Noah." My handwriting was neat, deliberate. Inside, on top of a crystal frame, was a folded note and printouts of the messages her coworker had shown me. Screenshots and receipts. Not a threat. Just the truth. I stepped back, checked my reflection one last time, and straightened my dress. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady, calm in a way that felt almost foreign. Then I turned and walked toward the exit. The Vermont evening hit me with a rush of cold air. The lake shimmered under the lights, a mirror I didn't need anymore. I could hear the faint echo of clapping behind me, the crowd cheering for a dance I no longer cared to watch. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. Inside the ballroom, laughter still floated above the music. Glasses clinked. The crowd pressed closer around the couple on the dance floor. Leia glowed in that heavy white gown, the picture of perfection she'd rehearsed for months. Noah spun her once, twice. Camera flashes painted everything gold. Then the silver box was opened. It happened near the gift table. A cousin had gathered the presents, sorting bows and ribbons for photos. Someone said, "Let's have them open one," a spur-of-the-moment show for the guests. Leia turned, laughing, and tugged the ribbon free. The paper fell away. The lid lifted. Inside lay the crystal frame, and beneath it the folded note. Her hand hesitated. "What's this?" Noah leaned over. The note slid loose and landed face up on the table. His eyes caught the screenshots before she could snatch them. He frowned, scanning the text messages printed in pale blue bubbles. Sentence stuck out. "He's so easy to handle. Cry a little and he buys anything I want." The music didn't stop right away. It thinned. The violinist stumbled, missing a beat. Leia's fingers shook. "This isn't. Someone's trying to." Noah didn't answer. He just kept reading. Page after page. Each line worse than the last. Jokes about getting him to sign the prenup first. Moving her parents into the guest house once he was settled. The same smirk she'd given me hours ago, now frozen on her face, brittle and wrong. "Who sent this?" she hissed. Her mother-in-law, Victoria, had been watching from across the room. When she heard the name Amber Hayes, whispered by one of the bridesmaids, her expression hardened. She crossed the floor with the slow certainty of someone used to authority. "I think you should read the rest before you blame anyone," she said. "These came to me this morning, forwarded from a stylist you hired." Apparently they were in the wrong thread. Leia's face drained of color. That's not possible. Noah's voice was low. Israel Leia. The dates match. He turned the final page. A photo of her text. The house will be mine by Christmas. A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Phones came out. The photographer froze mid-shot. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Leia lunged for the papers. "You can't show people that." Victoria stepped between them. "You showed it yourself, sweetheart." That was when the screaming started. Not loud at first, more like air leaving a body too fast. Leia stumbled back, the train of her gown catching under her heel. "No, you don't understand. He's lying. My sister. She did this." Noah's jaw tightened. Amber didn't write those messages. She planted them. She's jealous. She's always. Stop. The single word cracked through the room like a whip. You did this. You humiliated her today, and you thought no one would ever see who you really are. Every face had turned toward them now. The DJ lowered the volume. A child's voice asked, "Mom, what's happening?" Leia's perfect day was dissolving and she couldn't hold it together anymore. She spun toward our parents. "Do something." My mother, Maggie, stood pale and stiff near the head table, her champagne glass trembling. My father looked at the floor, lips pressed tight. For once, neither defended her. "You knew," Noah said quietly, his voice shaking now. "You knew exactly what you were doing." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded document and set it on the table. "This is an annulment petition. I already signed it." Leia stared at the paper like it was a live wire. "You can't, Noah. You can't humiliate me like this." "I'm not humiliating you," he said. "You did that yourself." Someone turned off the music entirely. The room fell into a silence so deep it buzzed in people's ears. Then came the sound the guests would remember. Crystal shattering as the frame hit the floor. "She's behind this," Leia's voice cracked. "Amber's behind all of it." Victoria exhaled slowly. "Funny. The only thing your sister did was tell the truth." Outside I'd stopped by my car, engine idling. The glow from the ballroom windows flickered across the lake. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard the scream. It came sharp and high, echoing across the water, followed by the dull thud of a chair tipping. The sound I'd waited my whole life to hear. Not out of cruelty but closure. Dad spoke quietly for the first time that night. "You should apologize to your sister." The words stunned everyone, even Mom. But Leia only laughed, a sound so brittle it didn't reach her eyes. "Apologize to her? She's not even family." Dad shook his head slowly. "That's where you're wrong." By the time the lights dimmed and the staff began sweeping broken glass from the floor, Leia sat alone under the chandelier. Her dress, once dazzling, now looked heavy and wrinkled. The bouquet had fallen beside her chair. The same hands that had pushed me away now clutched air, desperate for something to hold. He never saw me. I was already gone. By the time I reached Boston, the sky was beginning to gray. The highway signs blurred past, the hum of tires steady and low, like white noise after years of shouting I'd learned to ignore. My phone buzzed nonstop in the cup holder. 16 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't check any of them. The quiet was worth more than explanations. When I stepped into my apartment, it smelled faintly of coffee and rain. The city outside was waking up, headlights flashing across my window. I hung my dress on the back of a chair and stared at it. The deep wine color still flawless, untouched by the night. It looked like armor I hadn't known I was wearing. A new message appeared. "Please answer, Amber. We didn't know." That was Mom. She always said that when things finally went wrong. We didn't know. But she had known all along. Every time she'd told me to stay quiet. Every time she'd laughed at Leia's jokes. Every time she'd said, "You're fine." I put the phone face down on the counter and opened my laptop instead. A map of Maine blinked back at me, dotted with tiny coastal towns. I picked one somewhere I'd never been and clicked book. A week by the water sounded like peace. At my sister's wedding, I was seated by the trash cans. This morning I'm sitting by the river. Same silence, different meaning. Back then it was humiliation. Now it's peace. Sometimes the loudest revenge isn't a scream. It's the sound of your own footsteps leaving the room. Walking away isn't weakness. It's the beginning of freedom. Have you ever been pushed aside by the people who were supposed to love you? Drop a comment and tell me your story. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories that matter.